A city trembling on the edge of transformation, a restless, feverish melting pot of ambition, fear, and faith. Narrow lanes clogged with the cries of hawkers, the stink of dung and smoke, the clang of forge and bell. Yet beneath the din lay the deeper rumble of a nation tearing at its own seams. King and parliament stood locked in a dangerous waltz, their quarrel over power and conscience about to engulf the realm in civil war. Merchants whispered of profit and peril trade with the colonies. The spice routes, even as plague, crept through the alleys, and starvation gnawed at the poor churches, thundered with sermons of divine judgment, and every tavern corner brimmed with talk of prophecy and rebellion. Life was precarious, unforgiving, and charged with purpose. Men and women lived closer to death, yet perhaps closer to meaning. Welcome to London in 1640, a tour of the city based on the drawings of Wenceslaus Hollar. In 1640, London Bridge was no mere crossing. It was an early modern hybrid of bustling marketplace and precarious housing, an architectural marvel of chaos and ingenuity. Crowded houses leaned over the water, with rooftops almost touching by day. The crush of carts and bodies never ceased. And from the southern gate, the grim display of traitors' heads marked the power of the state and the cost of defiance. It was London in miniature, congested, volatile, and vividly alive south of the river. Around the Globe Theatre and the bear-baiting pit of Southwark, London shed its civility and bared its appetite for spectacle. The air was thick, heavy with the scents of ale mud, and the river's rot where the Thames carried refuse, and the cries of the desperate and street urchins darting between stalls. Taverns spilled drinkers into twisting lanes. Harlots called from doorways, their voices ringing over the clatter of carts and the stamping of hooves. It was a district of earth and sin, of vice and vitality, where London came to forget its conscience, to trade its cares for a moment of thrill, of terror and taste. In every alley and crowded yard, its own wild, unbridled heart. In the 1640s, St. Paul's Cathedral still wore its medieval guise, vast, dark, and weathered, long before Wren's dome reshaped the skyline. Around its churchyard sprawled a maze of bookstalls and printers' shops, where pamphlets, sermons, and seditious tracts passed hand to hand, feeding the city's restless mind. Inside, gentlemen, beggars, and preachers mingled beneath the vaulted gloom. St. Paul's was the city's moral and physical heart, a monument of faith and endurance, its stones darkened by smoke, yet stubbornly reaching toward heaven. In just over 20 years, the cathedral and all that surrounded it would be consumed by the Great Fire of 1666, and the blueprint for the modern city of London would emerge. Westminster was the sober heart of English power, quieter and more ordered than the clamorous city to the east, to the left. The Palace of Westminster held the Commons and Lords beneath hammer-beamed chambers. In the center, Westminster Hall hosted judicial and ceremonial events, while to the rear rose the Gothic towers of Westminster Abbey. In Palace Yard, lawyers, clerks, and messengers hurried between chambers, their black cloaks brushing the worn stone. Here, Westminster moved with measured gravity. The air carried smoke from hearths, the tang of ink and parchment, and the odor of horses, clergy, and surplices and merchants with ledgers moved in careful procession. A choreography of power and duty bells tolled from Westminster Abbey, marking the hours, and carriages rattled across the yard carrying the wealthy or the condemned. Every step echoed with the weight of decisions, while outside murmurs of unrest hinted at the political and military storm gathering. The Tower of London loomed grim and immutable above the river's bend, a fortress of stone and silence, its ancient walls steeped in the weight of centuries. To the common Londoner, it was both dread and symbol, the iron heart of royal authority, where whispers of treason ended in chains. Yet within those same walls gleamed the crown jewels, tokens of divine monarchy. In an age when such divinity was beginning to fracture, the tower stood like a warning carved in stone, a shadow of absolute power cast long across a city on the brink of revolution. Just east of Lambeth Palace, the Thames broadened into a quieter reach, where the clamor of the city softened into stillness. Here, on the ground where modern-day St. Thomas's Hospital now stands, low meadows ran down to the river, often silvered with floodwater after heavy rain, their grasses whispering beneath willows and alder. The air was softer, scented with river mud and wild mint, and herons stalked the shallows, where the current slowed a handful of cottages and gardens dotted the bank home to boatmen and palace servants. It was a place of quiet reprieve, where the only sounds were the turning of the tide and the distant toll of the abbey bells drifting across the water. London in 1640 was restless, intoxicating, and unruly, a city of tradition, adventure, and violence, of religious zeal, poverty, and disease. In its shadowed alleys and along its bustling quays, markets and playhouses thrummed with commerce, curiosity, and dissent, while the abbey, the palaces, and the tower loomed above it all, asserting their weight and authority over the teeming city below. Every street and square vibrated with the tension of a nation edging towards civil war. And though 4 centuries divide that London from ours, its rhythm feels hauntingly familiar, a metropolis of greed and grace, of innovation, and unrest, of bleakness and exhilaration, forever reinventing itself, and yet still the same London. I hope you enjoyed your tour of 1640 London. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe for future videos.